Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna repot 10 Oncidiums. Yes, the orchids that I purchased a few days ago, they all really need a repot. Check the video down below in the description if you missed it. I show you how the pseudobulbs look like. And today we're just gonna do a marathon. I'm gonna repot all of them. And as you can see, I have everything or almost everything already prepared, so I make things easier on myself. Today I won't focus on why I use the products that I use. I'll have links down below in the description that talk more about these products and my techniques. But I do want to show you what I am going to be working with. So let me get you in closer. The main medium I will be using is sphagnum moss. As you can see, I have some white specks. This is perlite. I mixed it in with the moss. It offers more drainage, more aeration, and also some sources suggest it helps with acidity when the moss starts to become old. Anyway, I do enjoy using perlite together with moss. It's a really affordable material. Let us move on. There, I already prepared my pots. I don't know exactly what size I will be needing, so I could go for something like this. I think this is the 4-inch slotted pot from Repot Me, but also I will be having some bigger pots, which are actually some food containers, which I customized myself using a soldering iron. Here I have my hydrogen peroxide 3% from the pharmacy. In that tray, I will actually dump the old medium because the tray that I'm working with here, it tends to get a little messy. Next to that, we have some leca. This is reused leca. I sterilize it through boiling. I don't know if I'm gonna be making mixes with leca, but I have it here because I have tons of leca. Then next to it, I have oyster shells from Repot Me. As you can see, I use this product quite a lot. I'm willing to sprinkle a little bit even for the Oncidiums and see if there is any difference. Next to this, I have my bark mix. This is actually a mix of very tiny Orchiata bark. I think it's the 6 to 9 millimeter size, which is way too tiny for most of my orchids. Actually, it's practically unusable. So what I did was I mixed it with the fir bark that I currently use. And the final things are my tools. This is the Fiskars that Repot Me sent me, and I really love this tool for cutting roots, leaves. It's not so sturdy that I can cut thick rhizomes. I also have some tweezers. This is alcohol to sterilize everything. And one thing that I will be using on my terrace is in this bottle. This is my mineral oil solution against spider mites and other critters. It is spring. It is time that I spray my entire collection preemptively and also all of the new orchids. So I will do that on the terrace with all of these Oncidiums. If you want to learn more about this concoction, do visit the description. Yet again, I'm not going to focus on any of these. With this said though, I do believe it is time to build some courage and start repotting. First orchid of the day is the Bellara Peggy Ruth Carpenter Gem. We're gonna start the day easy. This one already kind of jumped out of her pot when I removed the plastic sleeve. P.S. I'm not keeping these stakes. So let's see if the orchid just wants to come out of its pot. Oh, wow. Well, we do have more roots than meets the eye. And not all of these roots are actually dead, which is nice. But can you see this? At some point, we had another growth here which was cut away or it rotted away. Something happened, and it happened a long time ago. I need to rinse the root system at the sink, see what I'm working with here, because now everything is very dirty. See what I was telling you with the bowl? It catches this medium much better than my tray, and I'm actually in the progress of cleaning my entire growth space. Alright, so initially I wanted to remove this entire section of the plant, but if I do so, I cut away all of this root mass, which is not all dead, and I would be left only with this, which is not in very good condition. Some of these are already dead. Not what I want, but I do want to get rid of some structures because they will just decompose. They will not help the medium at all. So I will cut the rhizome here of this dead part. Let's see. And also I want to remove this old pseudobulb. It's a seedling pseudobulb. Again, not gonna help us much with anything. And then I will go ahead and see which root is still alive, which one is not alive anymore, and pretty much maintain this entire root ball. Sometime in the future, I will be able to remove all of this rhizome to create more space in the pot, but right now this orchid needs help. New roots will appear soon, but until then the orchid might get way too dehydrated, so I would rather do this now. Alright, so this is what I'm left with, but these are not all good roots. They're really unhealthy roots actually. Many of them have been eaten by snails or damaged by the medium. So what I will do is just leave them on and then come back after a month, unpot the orchid, cut away everything that died, repot it again. I said 1 month, but it might be less, might be more. When this new growth starts to put out roots, I'm going to cut away this section because I'm 99% sure these will not branch out, but I need them to hydrate the orchid as much as they can before they go, just so I can give more chances to the orchid. And because my little orchid is in such poor condition, I'm cutting the flower spike. I don't want the energy of this orchid to be drained on flowers. I want it to be put into this new growth and its roots. All right, next thing that I'm gonna do is spray hydrogen peroxide on the root system because I did see signs of snail. Alright, so now I'm gonna go on the terrace and spray the upper part with my DIY anti-pest solution. Okay, so my orchid is almost dry. I will be using mainly a moss mix for this orchid, but also some of the other ingredients, just not in very high quantities. Here we have her. This is the Alisara Pegaruth Carpenter variety gem. What I'm actually doing is I'm potting all of the orchids, treat them, make sure they're all cleaned up, and then I'm repotting all of them. So you will see the same type of setting. It's already night here, but this is when I'm done with things. But I do believe it was worth it. Alright, so that was an interesting case, but it is time to move on. We have 9 more orchids to go. Next up, this orchid, which I believe is a sort of Tahoma Glacier. Maybe a different variety. This one actually looks better than the previous orchid. We don't have as much shriveling, but appearances can be deceiving. Oh wow. Oh no, this orchid really doesn't look good. So look at this. We appear to have a combination of moss and bark here. And the bark is not all that great, but obviously this orchid was kept a little bit too wet for the pot that it has. You can see there are no ventilation holes. Also, I see clear signs of snails on this one as well. That's never good. Snails can actually kill an orchid. If they eat up all of the new roots, in time the orchid will just stop having new roots. The old roots will die off, and you can imagine the orchid will just stop growing. Now, I do have a video that I made a lot of time ago when I actually had snail issues. If you're curious to know how snail damage looks like, just check the description. Now, this orchid is a totally different case. We have live roots. Can we see them green up? We also have root tips here. This orchid is already active. It will start to branch out root-wise, I mean, in no time. I believe new roots will come very soon. So with this one, I will be a lot more selective with its old roots. I will cut away everything that is questionable, unhealthy, all of those things, because it will not sit too long without roots. So just like with the other one, I rinse the root system. I'll use hydrogen peroxide and my DIY insecticide, so I won't be filming these things. One important thing to note is that it's always a good idea to remove all of these sheaths that surround the base of the pseudobulbs as much as you can without actually damaging the orchid, because under these sheaths you can have pests hiding. So even if you do your insecticide treatment, it might not actually be efficient if the pests are hiding under these sheaths. So as much as possible without damaging the orchid, I like to remove as many of the sheaths as I can, preferably all of them. Here's the Tahoma Glacier variety, or at least I think it is. I really love the flower on this orchid. It has a green edge, which makes me think, yeah, it's some sort of Tahoma Glacier. I think this orchid will be fine, but I need to monitor the pseudobulbs. If they go too shriveled, the flower spike is coming off, and that should help out a bit, but I will enjoy the flowers maybe just a day or two more. Next up, the orchid that I told you, I think it's a winter wonderland, but you know what? I had some doubts, and one of you guys actually suggested that you have this orchid with an ID, and it's the Snowblind, which was the second, let's say, guess that I had. Now that I look at it, it is way too vigorous to be a winter wonderland. I do believe it's the snow blind, so I take back my initial ID. All right, this is a rather big orchid and vigorous one. So I'm hoping the root system looks good on this one. Oh no, signs of snails. I'm not surprised though, all of these orchids have snails. Okay, this might actually have good roots. So with this one we have a moss center. This is the seedling plug. Some orchids have a cocoa peat plug, others a sphagnum moss plug. It is very old. It is time to be removed. Now this orchid actually does have quite a lot more roots than the previous ones. I also have new roots and new growth tips here. So with this one, I can afford to be picky about the roots that I keep. And one technique that I use with these types of orchids, which don't pose, let's say, a risk when it comes to roots, is I remove all of the oldest roots. So I kind of already did. As I was rinsing the orchid, this old seedling bulb just came loose. And as you can see, it took with it a whole bunch of dead roots. We're just gonna throw this away. But the orchid does still have quite a lot more dead roots in the center here. So if I turn this orchid around, this is the oldest pseudobulb. I don't wanna remove this bulb, it's perfectly good, but I do wanna remove the roots because they're not alive anymore. These are very old roots, so whatever comes from this pseudobulb, I will cut away. I don't usually do this with sick orchids because there is a chance I'm going to cut good roots as well. And on a sick orchid, I don't want to do that. With this orchid though, I am in no danger. So you see things like these, which is very easy to see they're dead. If I cut each one individually, it's going to take an eternity. So what I do is just identify the oldest pseudobulb and the rhizome. This is where the tiny pseudobulb came from, and I will cut all of these roots in this area. And here we go. These are all dead roots. See? And here's the snow blind all done. I opted for the bigger pot, the 14 centimeter pot. There is a variation between these pots. They're not dramatically bigger or smaller, but it makes a difference. This is a big orchid, the roots will be big, pseudobulbs will be big. So no matter the root system now, I prefer to just pot into an appropriate pot for the orchid, not the root system at this moment. And also I placed a round support that I find at my local garden center. I really like these supports. They are very affordable and they do maintain my big orchids a lot tidier. Next up we have the Melisa Briana Dark. This one actually looks rather good, so I'm hoping to have good roots. But as we know, appearances can be deceiving. So, okay, this pot is very brittle, meaning it is actually pretty old. Oh my goodness. Alrighty, this orchid is potted in that cocoa peat material, which I personally really don't like. But hey, whatever works for the nursery and whatever maintains the prices affordable. The orchid though, well, it doesn't look horrible, but it could have been better. Obviously, you can see she's not extremely happy with her situation. One thing I dislike about this medium is that it can actually be quite dirty. And repotting can be a messy procedure. This just makes things worse. Okay, so I need to go to the sink and rinse it out. All right, this orchid actually has quite a lot of dead roots, but most of them are coming from the older growth and from the new growth because they have been eaten by snails. So I will apply the same procedure. I will cut away, I think, most of these roots which come from the old pseudobulb because they're dead. So I will be a little bit more careful with this one. One thing you should keep in mind is that not all brown or black roots are dead, and not all white roots are alive. If you're not sure if a root is alive or dead, just pull on it. If it leaves behind a string like this, it's dead. If it seems robust and if you try to pull gently, it does not break, doesn't leave that string behind, it's alive. That medium made things a little bit worse because it stained the roots. This orchid doesn't have black roots naturally, they're just stained. Here's the Vilstacara Melisa Briana variety dark. To my surprise, actually, the roots were not very good on this orchid. Also, the back part kind of just split away from the main plant, so I'm trying to propagate that one, but this one really doesn't have a good root system, so I will need to monitor it. I went pretty heavy with the moss. Whatever is very close to Odontoglossum here does much better in moss. It needs to stay evenly moist in my climate, so unlike other orchids, this one does have quite a lot of moss. Next up, here we have the Shady Lady Melisa Briana, and I think the medium will be about the same. The orchid, I don't have hopes that it will look better, but it's okay. Oh, forgot to remove the stake. So here we go again. We have the moss ball in the center. I don't remember, did the other one have a moss center? I think it didn't. But all of the roots inside this moss ball are all gone. The moss is way too old. I'm presuming very, very acidic. I think this one will actually be an easy one because I am going to cut away all this rhizome. This is bare rhizome. It used to have some pseudobulbs somewhere around here, I bet, but this is all dead. I can cut away all of this. Okay, well, actually, this one will go a lot easier. All of the good roots are here in the front. So let's just rinse this orchid really fast. Okay, here we are. Let's see if the Fiskars is strong enough to cut this rhizome, which I don't think it's too thick. This is what I would have done in the case of the other orchid as well, but that one didn't have good roots in the front. So in this case, let's see. I'm gonna cut it here for now and remove the excess dead roots and other sheets here. These are all dead roots. Okay, and am I satisfied with this? I could actually remove this pseudobulb as well because it's kind of loose. It's losing its leaf. It's old. Oh, yeah, it's coming off. There we have it. So we're gonna remove that one as well and just tidy up a little bit in the back here. There are no live roots here, so I'm not very careful. Everything alive is here in the front, but I do want to remove as many of these dead sheaths and roots as I possibly can. Let me just show you something fast. We got to it in the nick of times. Do you see this root? It has a hollow crater inside it. That's snail damage. This one is still okay. The snail didn't get to it, or snails, so we got to it just in time. If we let snails be, they will eat away all of these new roots before they grow enough to actually branch. And in the end, if they continue to do this, they will kill off the orchid. Happened to me. Sadly, it happened with an orchid that I'm not sure that I will ever find again. So I'm not taking any chances. It's time for hydrogen peroxide. Here's the Melisa Briana Shady Lady. I thought this one would look worse than the other Melisa Briana, but no, appearances are deceiving. This one does have a lot more good roots. I still went ahead and placed her almost in full moss with just a little bit of bark, of course the top layer. I will hang on to the flowers. I'll see how the pseudobulbs react, but I think she'll be pretty okay. Okay, 5 down, 5 more to go. I'm actually pretty happy about how things turned out. All the other 5 orchids were different cases, so I'm so happy I got to film all of the decisions that I made based on what I saw. As you could see, they were all a little bit different. Every orchid you repot is actually different. Next up, we have this beautiful yellow Wilson Aras. So let's see how this orchid looks like. I do believe this one will look a little better, judging by the pseudobulbs. So let's see. Oh yeah, this one has roots. Wow, look at that. Let's hope most of these are alive because I know many are not. And oh, look at that medium. Do you see the mold? This medium is old. We do have dead roots as well. And all of this retains water, acidifies the medium, releases byproduct of decomposition. The medium is already kind of old, so molds have a great life in this medium. It really was about time this orchid got a good repot. Okay, on this one, I don't believe I have too many roots to cut. They don't all look good, but most of them do. So I'm just gonna go and see what mushy roots I can find. This one was obviously dead, but I do believe I have more good roots than bad. Yet again, I'm gonna go at the oldest growth because typically this is where the majority of dead roots are. And yeah, look at that. These are all dead. So this one will actually be easy to clean up. Here is the yellow Odontiota. Again, I opted for the bigger pot, a mix of all of the materials and a ring support. This orchid is rather big, as you can see, and the ring support will help us maintain it in place. And also the pot should be okay for about 2 years or so. Next, we have this really nice spidery one, which is an Alisara. She's not a Brassia or Brasidium. This one, I really don't have high hopes because the pseudobulbs really don't look so good, and after hydration, nothing much changed. So I'm expecting to have really bad roots on this orchid. Okay, let's see. Oh dear. Wow. This is potted in the cocoa peat medium, and these roots do not look good. They really don't. We have sphagnum moss in the middle, and I do need to go to the sink now. Judging by the looks of things, I believe this is yet another one which will not have many good roots, if at all. So with this one, I will cut the flower spike, just like with Peggy Ruth Carpenter, and the spike will go in a vase. I did feel around the roots a little bit. Most of them are dead. If I pull on them, they will leave behind the string. I really didn't detect any good roots, to be honest, and that's concerning. So as I suspected, this orchid doesn't have one single good root, not even questionable roots. They were all gone. So cutting the flower spike was a good idea. One thing to mention here, even if the orchid does not have roots, I will still spray it with hydrogen peroxide. I will spray the rhizome and in between the pseudobulbs. I had it happen at some point a lot of time ago. I had a rootless cattleya. I thought, well, there can't be any snail eggs because there are no roots, right? Wrong. There were somewhere in the rhizome in between the pseudobulbs, and at some point they came back and started to munch on the new roots. So just because the orchid doesn't have roots, it doesn't mean it doesn't have snail eggs. So I will definitely spray it. Here we have the Alisara Torero. We don't have any type of root on this orchid. I opted for a rather mossy mix, although the top layer is bark, and hopefully we'll get some new roots soon, but I do believe this one will be quite set back. Next up, the Bellara Eurostar. This one should be in much better condition. Sadly though, my camera did not record and I already removed the pot from this orchid. Thank goodness I noticed it now and not after I was done with the orchid, right? Okay, let's see. Well, we have dead roots, but I do believe we have quite a few live roots as well. Oh, we have a lot of... Oh, I thought it was sphagnum moss, but no, this is coconut husk choir. It's a plug, but it's so mushy. All of the roots here are very, very mushy. So I think the new roots are the ones which are alive. Yeah, all of this, don't worry about it. It's dead roots. Can you see? So yeah, the middle of the orchid was gone, but I do believe these roots, most of them are okay. So I'm gonna go rinse the orchid. Okay, surprisingly enough, the roots were not in as good of a condition as I thought. I think we caught this orchid in the nick of time, just when she started declining. So I opted to cut the flower spike to minimize the setback. I left on the orchid some roots which are questionable. It's again one of those cases which I think I will come back within a month or so and remove all of the roots that died in the meantime. I do want to leave a few roots on the orchid to help it out, but they're not healthy. The problem with setbacks and why I dread them so much is that it can take 2 years until I see another flower from this orchid. The more you can minimize the setback, the better, the faster it will take to recover and bloom. So I don't really care much that I'm cutting the flower spikes and I'm not enjoying them because I don't want to wait for 2 years or maybe even 3 sometimes for this orchid to recover. I'd rather just wait 1 year. And here's the Eurostar all done. I do believe this growth will continue growing. The core is not damaged, it's just the tip, which I believe is just the tip of the leaves, so we can have the surprise to have 2 new growths developing on this orchid. Alrighty, 2 more to go, and I cannot wait to get this done because I really need to finish cleaning up my grow room, and I need to finish this weekend. So this is the Stairbik. I don't actually have high hopes for this one either because I don't like how shriveled the pseudobulbs are. Oh no, I broke one flower. Well, if the root system is not good, I'm gonna cut away all of the spike, but aw, it happens. So let's see. Ooh, nope. Most of these roots, they're dead. Yeah. Okay, so we're not looking spectacular, but we have a new growth starting here, and also I discovered a good root. I think you can clearly tell that this is definitely a good growing root. Okay, I'm so happy about this one because it's a perfect educational subject. So, I left on the orchid all of the roots that I found alive. Now, with the other orchids, I told you that I left on more roots than maybe I should have. Roots that were not healthy, but I still left them on to help the orchid. Well, I'll show you why. In some cases, only sections of the roots are dead. And this is a great example. Do you see? I cut away this root up to here because it was dead, but a little bit up, look at this. We have an active growth tip. This root is actually okay further up. This one is completely alive. This one, look at this. We have a base which doesn't look all that great, but the tip is still okay. It can branch out, it can create something very similar to this. I left all of those roots on in the hopes that some of them will not die back all the way, but they will branch out. Not all roots will do this. So whenever you're checking to see if the orchid has any live roots, do press on them, pinch on them, pull gently, because at some point you will detect that further up it might be a lot stiffer and actually only a section of the root is dead. Cut it to the point where it's not mushy anymore. Cut into mushy tissue, never into good tissue when it comes to roots. And with a little bit of luck, maybe you can have some roots branching out and not dying back all of the way. And here is the Odontiora Stairbik. I opted for a bigger pot. This is a rather thick rooted orchid, so I think this setup works better. And also I decided to leave the flower spike be, but if I see the pseudobulbs become very shriveled, I'll just remove it. Alrighty, the last one, you guys, which I do believe is the Plutosdrum or a variety of it. This is the most difficult one, I think, because we seem to have an issue with one of the pseudobulbs. Yep, it's halfway rotted. Now, I first need to unpot this orchid and see the full extent of the damage, because if the rot goes down to the rhizome, I cannot do anything. The rhizome, or moreover, the connection between the rhizome and the pseudobulb needs to be intact for the pseudobulb to be okay. If the connection is infected, there's no point in keeping the pseudobulb because it will just continue to rot, even if I remove the affected part. So we need to unpot it and see where we are. Okay, let's see, what do we have here? No, sadly I cannot save the pseudobulb. Can you see? It's rotted right down the middle, more so here where the rhizome is than at the top. So I cannot save this guy. It's very mushy here, and leaving any of it on can actually endanger this pseudobulb. So sadly, this guy needs to go. Let's see if I can... Yeah, I can make a separation here. And yeah, look at this. It goes directly into the rhizome. So, oh, I wonder if there were good roots here. No, all of these roots are not good anymore. Which means we are only left with a front bulb. It's not a back bulb, it's a front bulb. So the flower spike needs to go. Oh, thank goodness, I have live roots on this orchid. So she will be okay, but the flower spike needs to go. And here she is. I do believe I have quite a lot of potentially good roots to start her off, so there will be setback, definitely, but not major. So I'm happy about that. If the infection wouldn't have reached the rhizome, but rather just stayed on a part of the pseudobulb, I could have carved it out. And in that instance, I would actually cut into good tissue. You need to cut into healthy tissue and then seal it off, because any bit of infection you left behind will continue to spread. So a little bit bummed that I couldn't get to show you that in one video, but there will be other sick orchids in the future. Alrighty, let's wrap this up. Here's the Plutosdrum. I ran out of tags, but it's okay, I will remember what this is. This one I potted in the smallest pot. It's the 4-inch one, approximately 9 or 10 centimeters. This is the slotted pot from Repotting. I actually have a decorative container for this one, and I opted for quite a bit of moss in the mix of this one. In comparison to the other, let's say, larger orchids, I do believe she will be okay, but yeah, sadly the flower spike needed to be removed. Okay, you guys, that has been it. Here's my little bouquet of cut flowers. It actually looks really pretty, but as you might know, for me, it is important to maintain the orchid healthy, not just do anything to see the blooms and then hassle with a sick or very set back orchid. So alrighty guys, let me know in the description down below if you liked this type of format, better than individual repottings, which I will still do, but I think it's kind of nice to see a whole bunch of orchids being repotted because you can see multiple instances in one video. You can never know what an orchid hides inside the pot, so I hope this gave you some ideas of how to act, what to do, depending on what you will find. And if you guys really enjoyed this more than single repottings, then I will be sure to schedule, let's say, repottings, or to film them in different days and just compile them into one video. All you have to do is let me know your opinion down below. And with that said, thank you guys so much. It is time for me to just sit on the couch, because this weekend I cleaned the grow room. It was necessary. So I'm happy about that, but to wrap it up, you know the drill. Like or dislike this video, subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos and tutorials, Q&As, and other ideas about orchids that I can come up with. And if you really like my channel and would like to support it and help it grow, do consider visiting the merch store down below. You have links in the description. And with that said, I'll see you guys when I'll see you next. Bye.